Wow. Thank you all for being here tonight. I know that I am so humbled by being on the same stage with the incredible Dianne Feinstein. I just can't believe that I'm getting an award at the same time that she is, and I'm so proud. I'm so happy, and I'm very humbled by this entire experience. I want to thank the Democratic Foundation, the Board of Directors, and the new leader, Dan Jacobson. Dan, you are absolutely doing an incredible job. Let's hear it for Dan. My old classmate from Orange County, which I mention all the time, Wiley and I went to Garden Grove together, got very lucky when he retired and Dan Jacobson took the reins of the Democratic Foundation. I haven't seen so much activity, so many personalities coming to Orange County, so many electeds coming to Orange County. I think, Dan, you're doing just an incredible job, and I want to salute you for the work you and the board are doing. So thank you very much. You know, one of the things that happened this past year and was that Dan was able, through his campaign to raise money and through Josh Kerpies, the executive director, to raise, let's hear it for Josh, come on, to raise sufficient money for the Democratic Voter Guide to be printed and distributed throughout Orange County, and it was a great success. It really was. I'll give you an example. We, as Democrats, endorsed 71 candidates for election here in the county. We elected 39 of that 71. Congratulations, Daniel. You know, the Richard J. O'Neill Award is very special to me. I mean, I got to tell you, Richard was my friend. Richard was my mentor. We worked together for almost 4 decades, from about 1972 until he died, I think a year or 2 ago. And I am so grateful to be receiving this award. You know, Richard has an incredible legacy. He was absolutely the most powerful Democrat in the county. He raised the money, he brought out the workers, and the amazing thing about Richard was that he didn't stop by virtue of his incredible wealth. And remember, at one point, Richard had 54,000 acres in South Orange County. Now, you know what that is at 10,000 an acre? Imagine 100,000 an acre. You add 6 zeros behind that, and you get a little example of the amount of wealth that this man had. But he never, ever showed that wealth. He never, ever held that over anybody's head. He was always an individual who was humble and respectful and cared about everybody. Richard was truly an amazing guy. He and I traveled after the 1980 Democratic National Convention in New York to Montreal. We went to the Olympics together, just the 2 of us. And this is a little story. One of the reasons why I'm telling this story is because even at Richard's restaurant, El Adobe or the Blarney Castle or the Bull and Bear in LA, you paid the bill even if you were with Richard. You did. I mean, Richard was very, very tight with his money, but he was very generous with his political money. He and I went out to dinner the first night we were in Montreal. This is a true story. We are going up and down, and he says, well, we're not going here. What had happened was, in Montreal, they'd made all of the restaurants post their menus, and they went by about 3 months before the Olympics started, and stamped the menus. They had to put them in the window so that people didn't get ripped off because they were attending the Olympics. So Richard and I, every night that we were there, went on a shopping spree from window to window, restaurant to restaurant, to see who had the cheapest steaks. I would say, well, here's one for $4.35, Richard. He says, that's too cheap. He says, that's punched beef. Now, punched beef, for those of you who aren't in the restaurant business, is beef that has hormones injected in it to make it more flavorful and more tender. So we would shop every night to see what was a good place. Miguel, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, those of us who knew Richard well were very used to paying the bill. And this is, there was another story. I want to tell you about how I met Richard. I was a lawyer in 1972 in Santa Ana. It was about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and I was at 400 Civic Center Drive. Richard had his accountants on the 4th floor. I was on the 6th floor. So I went up to the 6th floor restaurant, this little place, and there was this guy sitting there, and he looked like, well, he had jeans on, he had kind of a shirt that had little stains on it. And I said, hi, do you mind if I join you? And he said, yeah. So we started talking. He found out I had walked precincts for Edmund G. Brown Sr. in 1960. He remembered that I told him about walking precincts for John F. Kennedy. He said, would you like to come to an event with me tonight? I said, okay. So at 6 o'clock, I met him. He had this beat-up old Volkswagen, pulls up to the front of the Civic Center Drive office building, and I get in. We drive to LA, and we stop at the Olympic Auditorium. It was like the seas had parted for Moses. Everybody, I'm going, who is this guy? I didn't have a clue who he was. And suddenly we get out and we walk in, and again they take him right in. There's hundreds of people outside. We're taken to a back room. He's admitted immediately. He says, no, he's with me. He's coming with me. And so I walk in with him, and there is Hubert Humphrey, there's George Moscone, there's Joseph Alioto. Every one of the people that I had seen on the television and I had admired were there. And they all said, it's Richard, it's Richard. I still didn't know who he was. On the way home, I said, you know, this is amazing, because I had no clue who you were. I learned there that he was Richard O'Neill, the big land baron and cattle person. But you would never know that by Richard O'Neill. I mean, he was so humble, so much a common man, you would just be blown away. And yet, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was at the ranch, Jimmy Carter was at the ranch, Clinton was at the ranch. I sat under an oak tree with Al Gore for 3 hours one night while Richard was cooking steaks at the ranch. It was an amazing, amazing experience being a friend of Richard O'Neill. The Democratic Party, which I am privileged to chair here in Orange County, is doing quite well. We have 515,000 registered Democrats here in the county. In 2008, we registered 70,000 new Democrats compared to 3,000 for the Republicans. That is an amazing experience. And we now have more registered Democrats in Orange County than the entire population of 29 states of this great union of ours. I've also been privileged to sit through the diminution of the Republican Party in Orange County. They now have less than 44% of the voters here in Orange County. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is completely different than the 52% that they used to have. The New York Times recently editorialized that Orange County is no longer the safe bastion for Republicans. It is now a competitive place. Now, I want to give you an example of what's happened here. We Democrats, we endorsed 71 candidates here in Orange County. That's all the way from our friend Loretta Sanchez, through Luke Correa, through Jose Solorio, our assemblyman. Guess how many were elected out of the 71? 39 were elected out of the 71. Now, I'm not particularly delighted with what happened nationally. I am not exactly delighted with the Tea Party. I have a different name for them, but the Tea Party and the number of people that they elected. But I have to tell you, I am delighted that our great Congresswoman, Loretta Sanchez, was reelected by a substantial margin. I'm delighted that Luke Correa almost won by 2-1. The same with Jose Solorio. And I'm grateful for the great campaigns that were run by Beth Crom and Phu Nguyen. Phu Nguyen, by the way, is our new leader in the Vietnamese community, and I predict he is going someplace here in this county and in this state. Ladies and gentlemen, I just feel so good to receive this award, to be on the same stage with Dianne Feinstein, and I can't tell you what a great evening this has been for me. I can't tell you how happy I am that Miguel Polito was reelected. I can't tell you how happy I am that we got a second city councilwoman for Deborah Gavello in Tustin. I'm so glad about Joe Shaw. We are just doing great. So hang in there. The Democratic Party of Orange County is going places. And thank you all so much. Jordan Brandlin back here was reelected by a substantial margin. Thank you all. I am just so very happy. I'm going to take this home and put it in a very prominent place. Thank you and good night.